Welcome to the Living Well podcast, hosted by City Union Mission. In each episode, we bring you inspiring stories of transformation and insights from those who've overcome life's challenges. Join us on this journey of resilience and discovery. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the Living Well podcast. I'm Brad Burrow and I'm guest hosting today. Today we have Anthony Mills, who's the center team leader at the L Minor Care Center, and Amanda Greene, the administrator there. So thank you for joining us today, guys. I wanted to kind of jump in, Anthony, and I was really interested. So I understand that you went through the mission.
Yes.
And now later you're working there. We've heard a couple stories like that in the past. Can you tell us about your life before coming to the mission?
Well,
you probably weren't quite prepared for that, were you?
I came to the mission years ago, actually decades. Back and forth for a while, for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Came because of addiction and homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the mission and got saved. Accepted, surrendered my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, which of course changed everything, right? New life, new beginning. But I continued to struggle with addiction, even as a born-again believer. But I was basically discipled at the mission. I went through their Christian Life program. And my first home church was here in Kansas City, Grace Baptist Church. And so between those two places, I learned to love Jesus, love his word, care about other people. The mission then, the men on the program were integral to what went on at the mission. And so we were put in places with the goal of us learning to live the Christian life and learning to love on people in the name of Jesus as we were growing. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And even though I still went through the pain of relapsing, there was still just a foundation set in terms of me loving Jesus, his word, and wanting to help people come to know him.
You know, so a couple things that already have kind of sparked me a little bit is Grace Baptist Church.
Yes.
So out in Overland Park?
87th and Bannister.
Oh, okay. It's a different. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So, church plays a big part in helping people kind of come through that recovery process.
Yes. Say the question again.
Well, I'm just curious. You said that you became a Christian, but then had some relapses, and I think the thing that really kind of hits me is God's grace in helping people, knowing that they're going to fail, and they, and you talk about City Union Mission. I mean, it's like there's not just a light switch that you hit and everything's good.
You'd think, and that was part of I think for me, the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Christians are more open now. I was saved 30 years ago, and I remember thinking, how could these people be so, I used to think something was wrong with me as a believer because it appeared that everyone else had it all together.
Yeah.
Right? Not so much now. Believers are able to be a little more vulnerable now, willing to say, hey, matter of fact, the person instrumental in helping me really surrender the addiction and get some real stability in my work, in my walk with the Lord, is my pastor. I now attend Faith Fellowship Baptist Church. My pastor, Ulysses Bestie, who's never been addicted to anything, was still able to look me in my eye and say, I understand.
Yeah.
And mean it. I know it wasn't hyperbole, and he wasn't just telling me something to make me feel good. He was telling me, Anthony, I understand, and I'm going to walk through this with you.
Yeah, that's great. Amanda, can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, we didn't really get into that on the last podcast, but, the grace and the mercy and, failure and, how to get back up. I mean, you probably see that every day, and Is that part of your job to encourage people? It's like, it's okay, we're still here for you.
We do. In the scriptures, the model and the pattern set by Jesus is there. Mercy before judgment. And within addiction and mental health, all those fall under behavioral health, of course, as we see it, is that relapse, whether it's a mental health, emotional relapse, or substance use relapse, or both combined, is often part of recovery. So we have to be there afterwards. It doesn't mean that we enable it and we stay there with them, but making sure the person knows that God hasn't left them, we're not going to leave them. And often right after a relapse or a fall is when that paradigm shift happens. So we see a lot of like amazing moves and a lot of hope right after that happens.
Is that right?
So we have to constantly
Yes.
tell ourselves that and tell each other that.
Would you agree with that too? I
Oh.
mean, did that happen to you?
Undoubtedly. One of the things because I relapsed a lot. I don't like saying that, but it was
Yeah.
the truth. But there was that something in me confirmed in scripture that said, yeah, Anthony, you did wrong. That was wrong. But I love you. Let's get back up and do it
Yeah.
again. That and the people of God confirming that. But at the same time, holding me accountable. You know, there has to be that aspect. Mercy without accountability turns into license after a while.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want that. We want to help build people up and move them forward, not give them excuse to stay in their mess.
Do you find that after you went through that you really did want that accountability?
Oh, yes, it's necessary for the Christian life
Yeah.
altogether. For communities to function properly, we have to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
So even within, particularly in the body of Christ, right? Because we can fool ourselves. We've got rules that we can go by.
Yeah.
Versus grace and mercy and kindness. I can look good and just not be doing well at all. But having that community, other
Yeah.
people beside me, it's a little easier to say, hey, everything's not the way it appears.
So you went through the Christian Life program.
Yes.
And did you go out and work and, you know, have a job, and then now you're back. So tell me how that whole thing worked.
Came back to Kansas City in 2017. I moved around in my addiction. I was a runner. Guilt and shame, which actually is pride.
Yeah.
And so when it's overdone, right, there are legitimate feelings and reactions when one is not living the right way. But for me, I was either way up here or way down here. And that's pride, right, where I was the center of my own thoughts. But anyway, so that balance of being able to share that with others and then coming back to the mission, it was just part of my circle. I believe it was always God's will for me to work at the mission,
Yeah.
right? I just took a long way around. And I think he set it up specifically for me to come back and work at the L Minor Center. My history at the mission had been through the Men's Center, the
Yeah.
emergency shelter, and the Christian Life program. Prior to my leaving, the L Minor Center didn't even exist. But one of my brothers that I went through the mission with was working at the L Minor Center, and he kept encouraging me to apply.
Is that right?
Yeah, and finally when
An actual brother.
well, no, we weren't born in.
Okay. So I
we
got
went
you.
through the program together.
I got you.
Yeah, so
So you were like brothers.
he's family.
Yeah. Okay. Amanda, can you talk a little bit about, I mean, now Anthony's the second person that we've talked to that's went through the program and now works there. I mean, that's got to be a pretty, I mean, your background and your ability to kind of relate to people coming through, that's got to be helpful in doing what you guys do.
It is. I think it's the basis for discipleship and mentorship. I'm a strong advocate for the peer specialist support model, which is where individuals with lived experience are usually the first person that can really speak into the life of someone that's struggling with behavioral health, which includes addiction. They've done studies that show that that's usually the person that can convince someone to get help, like someone who's been through that journey. And often are very empathetic and compassionate. So if someone who hasn't been through that journey might miss something, because we all have blind spots. So I'm absolutely for the blend of having a staff of individuals with lived experience.
And Anthony, you can speak into somebody's life that's coming in because you've been there.
Yes, exactly. And that is part of the benefit. But I also don't want people that haven't had my experience to discount their benefit to help others.
Same.
Right?
Tell me what you mean by that.
My pastor, again, who didn't go through addiction, Reverend Vanderberg, who was the CEO of the mission when I first came through, he was able to look us in the face, guys from the streets. He had never been there. He'd never been addicted, but look at us and say, I understand doing things you don't want to do. I understand feeling powerless to say no because I've been there and I've done that, right? Successful, loved the Lord. But again, he was able to identify with us because on a basic level, it's scriptural, right? Romans chapter 7, right? I find myself doing what I don't want to do. And I find myself not doing those things I want to do, right? That's our sinful nature. We as addicts take it to a whole extreme.
Yeah.
But other believers can still speak into the life of an addict if they really understand what they've been delivered from.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So tell me about your role. What's your current role?
Care center team leader.
Yeah.
It's still actually being developed. Amanda, pretty awesome. She didn't want to mini her, as in as in the sense of an assistant, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times in other positions, in other job areas, the assistant just does the work that the administrator either doesn't have time to do or really doesn't want to do. And she didn't want to do that. She wanted something that was going to complement what she does, but actually give me real responsibility, right? And so my role now is to look after the well-being of the other guest coordinators, keep us coordinated and working together as a team. But because of the work we do, it can consume you. It can be hurtful, right? So part of my job is just to care for the other guest coordinators as well. Make sure they're not working too much or exposing themselves too much.
They're on the front lines, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they're seeing people right when they come in, probably.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of damage. They're taking a lot, probably, huh?
Exactly. But then at the exact same time, frontline care for our guests, right? I'm still most of the time the first guy they meet. I give them tours when they come to see the building. That's where we differ from the homeless shelter. Homeless shelter, you show up, you got your bags, give me a bed. We, on one hand, they really don't have a choice, but they have a choice, right? Because we're a care center, we're not a homeless shelter. We're here to help you do something a little different than has been going on before. Do you want to take part in this? So we're asking guys to allow us to help them, but to work with us in doing it.
Amanda, this is something that on the front lines, is this something that you would have done as well? I mean, in that situation, I would think, Anthony, having with your background and being able to speak to somebody the first time that they come in and pose that to them, it's like, that's very interesting conversations. I bet you've had some very interesting conversations with people that have come in.
Yeah, we've had some great conversations.
Yeah.
I spoke to a gentleman today. Interesting is the word that was used.
Yeah.
Some of our guys don't know they need help. It's absolutely amazing how
don't know they need help.
How obtuse we can be living in a homeless shelter, right? But still, we can convince ourselves, I'm okay, everything's okay. This is just a little situation.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot where we minimize what's actually going on in our lives, right? I'm one step from sleeping in a park, but everything's okay. Part of our job is help them get to the place where they realize everything is not okay.
Yeah. Amanda, do you have to train these people how to have these conversations? I mean, is that just something that comes naturally for somebody like Anthony?
I think for Anthony, it comes naturally than most of the staff, I would say. I think we always find ways to improve, and we have a lot of conversations. Like every time we move someone in, we try to do it as a team. Like, hey, we should do this better next time. And we also learn from like feedback from our clients. We had a situation last week where an individual had some items that I won't mention what it is because it's not important to the story, but shouldn't have them in our center. So one of my roles as the administrator, of course, is to hold those boundaries. But Anthony was like, Amanda, I've been there where it's like, if I have to get rid of this, there's going to be a bill or there's going to be like consequences. So kind of having, doing the training, like, no, we can't have it in here. But yes, how can we be more compassionate so we're not re-traumatizing, the guests we're trying to convince to let us help them. So I think it's just a constant like refinement. We train on it a lot, and we're always going back through our guidelines. Like, are these fair? Is this, compassionate? Is it still keeping us safe? So it's a constant training and getting better all the time at what we do.
I bet you're learning all the time, probably, aren't you?
Oh, yes. There's like what she just mentioned, there's a balance, particularly in the homeless community when you're talking about where you have to care for the individual, but you also have to take care of the whole at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that, some of which I learned in the military, right? You're concerned about your individual soldier, but you also have to worry about all the other soldiers that are assigned to you.
Yeah.
And working in homeless shelters like that.
Yeah. Very interesting analogy. Do you ask a lot of questions? When somebody comes in, I would think that that's, how do you get somebody to realize kind of what you're talking about? It's like, I'm not okay.
It depends on the person, right? Some guys come in knowing. Right?
Yeah.
But then other guys, sometimes you just have to broach the question, ask them, right? Why are you here? And, well, I'm homeless. No, we got that. Why are you here, right? Sometimes it's painstakingly say, okay, where were you before you got here? Why did you leave that place?
Yeah.
Where were you before that place, right? And getting a man to the point to where he sees that the only common denominator between him and a bunch of having to leave places is him, right? Because we come in a lot of times just to protect ourselves emotionally and mentally. This has got to be somebody else's fault. There's no way I can be to blame for this.
Interesting. Yeah. So talk about how satisfying it is to see somebody go through the program and really see their lives changed.
Okay. I don't know if I can say his name, so I won't. But well, you spoke to one of my brothers last week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Amazing story, too. Yeah.
Early on, I almost had to put him out because he had spiked in a conversation where both gentlemen were wrong, and he was not in a space to hear anything or to be corrected. He was smart enough to look at me and say, Anthony, I can't hear you. I need some space. And I gave it to him. I said, okay, I'm going to let you have that. Where normally we want to deal, particularly if it has anything to do with hostilities, we're dealing with it right here, right now.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, because the other gentleman I had already sent away, I was willing to let my brother have his space. Okay, you got that. Half an hour later, he came back And it was the conversation that cemented us, that took us from me being the guest coordinator and him being a guest to us being friends. Because he admitted he was wrong. He admitted he needed to do something. And it told me that he had already done a whole lot of work prior to coming to the mission, but that he was still on the road, and that I knew then he was in the right place. Wasn't even close to thinking about him joining the Christian Life program or becoming staff, but I knew he was on the same journey I had been on, right? That he was trying to find his way and get better. That's the main thing with homelessness. It's not about finding a place to stay. It's about getting better.
Yeah.
Because we become homeless because ultimately, except for those few exceptions where there were outside circumstances that caused it, for most guys that are homeless, it's because we're broken. There's something going on with us that needs to be fixed.
Do you consider yourself kind of like an investigator? I mean, guys come in and you got to figure out what's going on with them. Is that part of the challenge? I mean, you don't know any of the background or anything about people that are coming in most of the time.
I think it is. One thing that we uniquely do is we intentionally don't do a lot of research on the person, and that's intentional. Like we could say before they come to the El Minor Care Center, we want to see their records and their criminal background and their medical records and this whole face sheet. But instead we meet with them to see where they say they're at. And then once they're in, we let them tell their story. And then it usually unfolds. The truth comes to light, and we start putting the pieces together with them. And I think that helps a lot because it builds trust. So then once they're in our center, we've built that trust, and then we're able to put the pieces together with them. And we try to tell them we don't have to know everything. We just need to know what we need to know to be able to provide care. And I think that helps them decide to let us help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guys know they've got issues and they're willing to do what they need to do.
And they'll share it.
A lot of times at the El Minor Center, we're not even at the place of, how do I say it? Some guys need counseling and other therapeutic helps to get better. We don't do a lot of that at the El Minor Center, right? We do peer.
We do a lot of peer support.
Yes,
a lot
that's
of
what I was
care,
looking for,
a
peer
lot of care
support.
interventions first before we link them up with counselors on the outside. Because sometimes they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
They're fearful of any clinical intervention. So first we want to get them comfortable and meet their immediate needs first.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to move on a little bit here. So one of the questions was, you talk about the intersection of disability and homeless and advocacy and addiction. Can you guys talk about that a little bit? What does that mean? What talk about that topic a little bit? Disability, homelessness, advocacy.
I don't know what the number is anymore, but it used to be a significant number of people that are homeless also struggled with mental illness on some level or another, and or addiction, right? And I remember before when I said a lot of times we have to accept the fact that we're broken, I did not mean that from a victim standpoint. I meant that from a standpoint of complex, often issues that are going on, plus dealing with a human being that has a sinful nature.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So we're talking just normal selfishness, self-centeredness, coupled with mental health and or emotional issues, right? And so that takes a process and time to unravel. Where we have to figure out is where we're at in their journey of getting better and how we can help.
Yeah.
Based upon our mandate. Our mandate is to help them move forward to
Wherever they are.
healthy, positive housing, right? And then hopefully at the next stage of their journey, they can begin to unpack and unravel some things.
How does faith impact all of that?
So I think it impacts all of it. So someone with, whether it's a physical or a mental illness or a combination of both, maybe there's addiction of some sort mixed in there, maybe homelessness, how we view God's view of us, if we believe we have a purpose and he has a plan for us, can impact all the decisions we make. We talk about spiritual distress. So if someone's in spiritual distress and they also have a physical illness, those two impact each other.
Yeah.
And then if you throw in maybe a mental illness and some substance use, everything gets compounded. If someone has faith and their belief is strong in the Lord and they have good spiritual care, it doesn't mean that all of that is taken away. God chooses how he heals. But a lot of times some of it's lessened because they have a support group at church. They have a mentor. They have people that are looking in on them. So I think every part of that impacts each other. They've proven that physical disability impacts mental health. Mental health impacts physical disability. And it's the same with our spiritual life.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I agree with what she's saying, but I know for sure because I've seen it. Sometimes, particularly at the Elmira Center, I've seen it. We had a guy come in who was truly delusional, who believed he was descendant from kings and called himself Nike because it's hard to explain where the world he lived in was not real, right? But time, patience, and just us loving on him daily, we take guys to recovery groups. We have groups in our center daily. A lot of times in the streets and things, guys are ostracized. Our communications are real limited and oftentimes manipulative and guarded. I'm trying to get something from you or you're trying to get something from me.
Very transactional.
Right? Very transactional and oftentimes real manipulating on both ends. So coming into the Elmira Center, your cares, your basic needs are met, right? So you don't have to lie or steal or cheat to get anything, right? So now we just learn how to live, at least at this level. And I've watched men who don't have the stress of being on the streets every day, who hear about the love of God every day, and a staff that exemplifies that and how we treat them, and giving them some minor responsibility. That's huge for us. We have what's called life skill groups, where we allow the men in the center and encourage them to help keep their place and space clean, right? And watching men begin to take responsibility for washing their own clothes, keeping their area clean, helping keep the general area clean. I watched this guy go from truly delusional to calling himself by his proper name, to going home to St. Louis and be with his family and get a job.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's got to feel good.
Yes.
Doesn't it, seeing that? I mean, do you see people, guys, just transforming right in front of your eyes?
Yes.
I bet that's happening every day probably.
It is. We have story after story, especially after the last 7 years of it, especially in the moment you don't know how to help them. Maybe, you're like, I don't know what we're going to do, but let's take care of them for now. And then over time, you see that, God does the work.
Now that gentleman, for the most part, was an exception because he was a little younger. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guys that come through our center are 50s and above. Mm-hmm. Physical disabilities coupled with mental health stuff. Some of them having to live with the consequences of a really hard life.
Yeah.
Decades of it, right? And so for some of our guys, positive, safe housing doesn't mean their own place. A lot of times, people from the outside, because that's the way we live in America, right? You're supposed to get your own, have your own. For a lot of our guys, that's not what moving forward means. And that's not, in a lot of their cases, even what's best or safe for them.
Yeah.
Right?
So what are some of the things, what are some of the common barriers to care? You know, what are some of the things that are you know, holding people back, maybe holding the organization back?
I think legal restrictions is a big one. Sometimes because of someone's past, there may be like spaces and places they can't live. So that's that's a huge barrier that we have to work around. Sometimes identification, documentation, maybe because they've lost it a lot or they don't remember where they're from. That happens, or of citizenship reasons. Sometimes because of decisions they've made in their past, they've burned a lot of bridges, so it's hard to get landlords or property managers to accept them. We've worked through a lot of those cases. It just takes time. It takes time and patience and finding people that are kind of on our side that want to take a chance on some of our individuals. I would say those are the big ones. Financial is always a case too. Linking people up with benefits and finding affordable placements within those benefits can be a challenge. It's not impossible. It's just a barrier. And also, Anthony mentioned it a little bit. Sometimes that American dream can get in the way. Like someone might be like, I want to be homeless, or I want to live in a loft with tracked lighting and have my own car. So then it's like, no, if that's one of your goals, let's keep it on the list of goals. But let's look at, you know, plan B and C and D as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. So how can people watching the podcast, how can they help? I wrote down serve and financial. What would you say to somebody that, you know, I want to be involved?
So definitely pray for us in your small groups, at your church. Learn more about us. If you want to set up a tour, please do. Just let me know and we can schedule a time. If you love to mentor others, we're always looking for positive mentors for our men. They need that. They need to be with Christians and individuals outside of us. They're with us all the time. So they need to be with individuals in the community, even if it's just going to the library with them or taking them to church. We have a great volunteer, Lincoln, who plays games with them once a week, and that's a huge influence. Just kind of spending that time exploring leisure, recreation. I'm looking for someone to take our men fishing. So just simple things like that are such a positive influence, like on our men.
So a mentor could be lots of different things then.
It can.
Yes.
Yeah. Like what? So is it leading Bible studies too? I mean, do you have things like
Always.
that? Is it?
We do a men's group. We always are looking for volunteers for chapel or sharing a life skill. He mentioned our life skill groups. We also have a barber that comes in. So just using skills that you already have. We've had individuals come in showing how to do photography, basic artwork, writing a letter, how to write a check, just basic life skills that someone is good at and they could share with our men really helps.
And how would they do they just reach out via the website, or how would they do that?
They can go right on our website where we actually have a link on there, and it will send us an email and we will set it up.
Okay, awesome. What do you think about the mentoring side of things?
Well, it's necessary just for the Christian life as a whole, but for life in general, but particularly for our guys.
Yeah.
For our guys, you don't know how long they're going to be there. And people's willingness to spend time.
Yeah.
There's so much healing in that. Just being willing to say, hey, come on, let's go hang out for a little bit. Or coming there and hanging out for a little bit. Helping the guys feel normal. There's a lot of things that's not normal about being homeless and on the streets.
Yeah.
And interjecting some normalcy into that.
Isn't it interesting just spending time with somebody can really make a big difference in their journey?
Yes. Make them feel human again.
Yeah. We don't think about that side of it, I don't think. You know, it's like you don't have to do anything to serve, just go hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that positive part. We talk about the wellness domains, and a huge part is that leisure and recreation part. A lot of the individuals we meet they either don't know that there's healthy, sober living, fun that's out there and that they can laugh, and they deserve to have hobbies and things to do outside of just surviving the day.
Yeah.
And so mentorship can play a huge part in that. Even if it's someone's just spending 10, 15 minutes a week with some of our individuals, it plays a huge part in their recovery.
Yeah. Another big thing, well, I spoke of normalcy. We're huge at the El Minor Center on, how do I say it, keeping things on an even keel, right? A lot of times people want to come and entertain our guys. Not in a bad way. They just say, well, their life's so depressing, let's go have some fun.
Yeah.
Right? But life isn't always fun, right? And so even at the El Minor Center, we have some times where things are fun. But we spend a lot of our day here watching some engaging things on the DVD, listening to some music, or just letting things be quiet, right? Because we have found most of our guys have either lived life down in the valley or up on some drug-infused mountaintop, and teaching them that it's okay to live here.
Maybe it's a good place to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Helps with the dopamine. But we do a lot of dad jokes. We're known for that.
I don't know anything about dad jokes. Carly's laughing at me right now. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's like I think that we need to learn, like people that can help, even just this last little part of the conversation where you can go spend a half hour there and make a difference in somebody's life. I think that's a big deal. And we need more people to do things like that. Just come down and hang out. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that would even be an option. It's like, well, I need to go serve. I need to go lead a Bible study every week, or I need to do, help fix something or whatever it is. But just hanging out, it was never even something I thought about.
Yeah, just come sit and be present.
Literally, we've got most of our tables 4 chairs, right? Just interjecting yourself into that space.
Yeah.
Can open you up. One, it makes the guys know they're approachable. And then a conversation may start, a conversation may not. But they've been there with another human being.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Only good that comes from that. Well, thank you so much for joining us
you.
again, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are doing amazing things. Anthony, I love that your background and that you've kind of come full circle to help other people.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's I think it's Romans 5, this circle that we go through. So that's amazing that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. This is the Living Well podcast. Be sure to share this with other folks. Anybody that can help the City Union Mission, that would be helpful. Tell people about the podcast, and be sure to listen because there's lots of new episodes coming out, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to The Living Well. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media for even more inspiration. Want to join our mission? Visit cityunionmission.org. Stay inspired, and we'll catch you next time.